Any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Don't keep your eye to the sky today.
Well said. Well said. Do not stare at the sun. You won't be able to see us for our next podcast. So I hear you are in the path of total totality, or how is that supposed to be called? What was it?
Something like that.
The total totality of total distractions of welcome to another episode of the Eclipse podcast today, or we're just going to talk about how that sort of fits into our business, if it even does. But I'm excited to be back with you today on this, the only day that's special that may not happen again for 40 more years. How's it going, Adam?
Boy, I like you were saying. I mean, I don't know. I never remember an eclipse receiving so much press.
Oh, it's
Like,
a big one.
yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess there was one 7 years ago.
It
I
wasn't a
kind of remember it.
wasn't this kind of an eclipse though. It was the other kind, like the discount kind,
Okay, maybe that's it. Yeah,
like the
I
Lincoln
remember.
Heritage kind.
Gotcha. I remember my wife and I were talking back. We both remembered. I think she was like in 6th grade, so I was probably like in 7th grade, and there was same thing. There was like an eclipse, and I remember our teachers gave us all these glasses and stuff, and yeah, you weren't supposed to go out and look at it and everything else. But the way that like this one has just been so publicized, like I don't know. I don't know if it's just social media and all the stuff that you see on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok and everything else or what, but like I never remember hearing so much about an eclipse, and like you would think it was like a holiday or something. Like to
Should
me,
be.
it's
Need
something
more
that
holidays.
lasts, what, a few hours in the sky that you can't even really look at unless you have glasses anyways, but it's enough of a reason to not work, I guess.
Yeah. See, what's actually going to happen though is the sky is going to go pitch black for hours. Dogs are going to howl, birds will cry, crickets will chirp, cats will drop dead in the street, and earthquakes will strike. And before you know it, your cell phone will be dead. The election will have passed, and you'll wake up back in another pandemic. That's actually what's supposed to happen today. Didn't you know that?
So that's the beginning of that. Yeah, the beginning of like the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Apocalypse.
It's over. Like this is the last one we're ever going to record. The Eclipse Apocalypse. This is it. Are you ready?
I guess, you know what? Maybe I need to be taking this more seriously
Mm-hmm. I mean,
if
maybe you
that's
need to make
really
sure this
what's
gets
happening.
posted today too. Otherwise,
I'm
like
gonna have to
what's
hurry up.
yeah, I don't know about you, but we will eventually get to talking about insurance. Have you ever put something on subscription before, like a non-perishable item from Amazon or whatever?
Yeah, I think I've like multivitamins and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I've done some subscriptions for.
I put paper towels and toilet paper on subscription, and now I have an entire room in the basement full of it. I had to like cancel the subscription because I had nowhere left to put the stuff. But it's a great way to save time and not be distracted by shopping.
It's a great method. It's a great marketing method. Uh, I buy like these greens that I have every morning. It's like the daily greens or whatever,
Hmm.
and I purchase them, and I buy like 2 packs a month because one was for me, one was for my wife. I'm consistent with making a shake every morning. She's not, but we
Hmm.
have 2 coming every month, and then I end up with same thing, just an overabundance of this stuff. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I had to pause the subscription because I got like 4 bags of this stuff still laying around. Like that's a good for 4 months worth, or at least if both of us end up using it every day, 2 months a piece. So they don't need to keep charging my card for it. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Even I remember when same thing, multivitamins. I feel like I would always end up with more than enough, and then I'm canceling at some point. But it's a great marketing, like I said, great marketing method because I think that's what happens a lot. And people, they don't hit pause, and they just every month that company is making money, and they have another purchase just automatically EFT, kind of like an insurance payment.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, people have this mindset with leads that they have to disposition all the leads on the weekly subscription for leads that they should be on, where you don't have to disposition all your vitamins. You just have to eat them. Like I think sometimes people need to like clear up their mindset on leads too, because they're thinking, like we were just talking about on your training, yeah, I get them every week, or I won't get them every week because I haven't seen everyone to be able to buy more. Maybe we can talk about that for a minute too.
Yeah. Uh, well, yeah, like I mentioned on our training this morning, the consistent lead flow is important. And I've seen it way too often where an agent, it's like, it's like they'd rather just go out for like a test drive. They don't want to purchase the car. They just want to test drive it. And
Hmm.
they want to just buy the one set of leads and just kind of see what happens. And while you can't really judge something, at least this based off of one order of leads. I mean, that's like just basing the purchase of a car just off of that one test drive. I mean, there's more to it than that. Yeah, you have to you got to have that steady flow on a regular basis, but there's a lot of carryover from one week to the next, and just it's so important to build up that inventory of leads. And you're not going to build up an inventory if you're working your one set of leads to death. And if you're doing that, you're going to maybe make some sales, but you're not going to make nearly enough sales to stay ahead.
Yeah.
Because it's again, it would take forever to disposition every single lead. I would have been out of business a long time ago. I mean, God, there's so many leads that I've never gotten a yes or no on. Probably more than leads that I've actually gotten a disposition on.
Exactly. I have an interesting story about the eclipse of someone's career, I believe, on Eclipse Day today that I'd be curious to get your thoughts on as I kind of tell it a little bit in vague terms. Then you can kind of respond to how you view it.
Okay.
So, and I gave it kind of as an example in today's morning training. We've been training since almost 9 a.m., kind of putting content out there for the world to hopefully not eclipse and watching. The red, yellow, and green light analogy. Red light, like something bad happens and you get angry. Yellow, oh, let's logic our way out of it. And green, now that we logicked our way out of it, let's move forward from it. So here's an example, though, of someone that I believe their career eclipsed because they weren't able to make that progression.
Okay.
So successful agent, successful at one organization, comes over to another simply because better commission, more
Hmm.
consistent leads, better quality leads, fundamental kind of stuff. Like you
Yeah.
can't be somewhere on an extremely low commission forever and not really eventually be taken advantage of. So they
Hmm.
make the change. They get on
Yep.
lead. They buy into whatever system that it is. It could be yours, mine, Lincoln Heritage, anyone's really. They buy into the system. And things are going great. Leads come in every week, work them every week, stumble their way into almost $3 million of annuity business just by doing their job. Eventually pay off their house from doing their job and from the annuity business. And eventually, as what most agents should do, they decide where they're going to subspecialize. Is it Medicare? Is it annuities? Is it building? Which one are they most passionate about? Pick one. So they start trying to replicate themselves. They figured it out. Maybe they can teach it to somebody else.
Hmm.
And they find somebody else. And that somebody else doesn't work out. Like, how many times in your career in agency building have you thought you found a good person, but that person didn't work out?
Probably more times than those that have
Oh,
made it.
10 times over, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Many times.
it's fine to get excited about somebody, but that somebody isn't anybody until that somebody replicates what you've taught them to do. Talk is cheap, action takes effort. So they find a person, that person doesn't work out. And unfortunately, in the process of that person not working out, they infect their recruiter, their agent, their successful person with negativity. Like, I guess the next bullet point on how a career can eclipse itself quicker than it should is, have you found negativity to be as toxic as I've witnessed it to be in the business?
Most definitely. Um, I mean, I've been around it. My prior, my prior job, when I was running the region for the one company, I remember I had a manager that was, it just seemed like just glass half full with everything.
Hmm.
And it's just the sort of thing I almost feel like, that's almost like, you would hear the term in baseball of like having a clubhouse cancer. someone where they're just negative about everything. They have a problem with everything, um, and that starts to rub off on everybody. And it can definitely change the culture that you're trying to build when you have that one person that maybe is, very opinionated, but it's always glass half full, and they always look at the problems with everything, and rather than just focusing on solutions.
Yeah. So in this situation, I feel like the recruit infected the recruiter without even realizing it, because I think sometimes negativity can catch you when you least expect it, or maybe you're
Hmm.
vulnerable. And before you know it, the person who's paid off their house with the work they've done and, you know, all the good things this business can provide you, stop their lead order. And all of a sudden is starting to be influenced by methods that haven't proven themselves to be successful. And then it kind of reaches the same progression I see in almost every case, that their career eclipses as they stop doing what works and they start
Hmm.
following what they think works, but they've never seen. It's just so sad to see like that sunset on people when you've seen it take place over and over again. You kind of know what eclipse I'm describing when you see someone's career just kind of fade into the sunset.
Yeah. Well, I would say even last year, I mean, I kind of screwed up and wasted a lot of time trying to build the telesales platform when I'd been so good out in the field forever, and just kind of bought into it too. I bought into some of these people on YouTube making it out to be easier than it really is, and everything else. You can generate all these leads, and you're just going to save so much time. A lot less driving time. Their whole sales point was, just think about all the time that you're spending driving from one spot to the next, where you could be spending that time on the phone with people. And yeah, it sounds good, but the problem is when people don't answer their phones, then you need that many more leads of people to call. I mean, honestly, it really just kind of balances itself out. Honestly, I don't even know if it balances itself out. I have a lot more success out in the field going out and seeing the people. So yeah, I mean, it's even happened to me, where I've kind of bought into people here and there where I should have just stayed the course with what I know works.
Yeah, I
So,
think
but heck, we all learn from our mistakes, but I'm not afraid to admit when I know that I should have just, kept doing what I know works best.
what's best about working with people that is that the people you choose to work with probably made a bunch of mistakes, and their lessons learned can be those you don't have to experience. Like, I have no problem saying to someone sometimes, "Yeah, I tried that. That shit doesn't work." I've worked with that. That definitely didn't work. I
Yeah.
wrote that, tried that, bought this. Here's what happened. Like we did on your training today. You were talking
Yeah.
about buying 25 or 30 leads. Here's what happens when you do that. But just the same way, we've made so many mistakes that we could afford to make. We can protect other people who can't afford to make those same mistakes, right?
Yeah. And I remember even at the time, I told you, yeah, I'm going to try this telesales thing. And, you tried talking me out of it. You said that was stupid and that I shouldn't do it. And I still did it.
Yeah.
But, again, like I said, we all learn from our mistakes of what works and what doesn't. And, my whole year last year, was just kind of like I've always said, just trying to make up some money from leaving where I left and just trying to figure things out. It was, it was kind of difficult, honestly, getting back out in the field after not consistently being out in the field for 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
So just a matter of, I guess it wasn't really fear. It was just like knowing that I could do it, but just knowing how much work it was going to entail when it
Yeah.
came to getting back out in the field and seeing people and writing business, and I've done well. I have not fallen behind income wise getting back out in the field, but definitely some pretty tiring days when it comes to getting back out there, and a lot more driving, but you got to do what you got to do. And it works. Like I said, I mean, if honestly the money that I invested into the telesales thing, I mean, I wish I would have never done it, and I'd have that much more money that I would have been able to invest into leads, and probably would have had a better first quarter last year.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is we kind of talk about eclipses in people's career and how you kind of see it taking place sometimes. I think sometimes these inflection points in people's businesses come at points of anger. Like I remember in the story I'm telling about somebody whose career went from top of the sun to over an eclipse. Um, that person they brought onto the business chose to stop their leads and chose to stop working. And I said, well, you're like 90 minutes from where her leads are. We need you to clean them up. We can't sit on it. They got to go somewhere. And they got angry about it. Like, that's not my territory. Those aren't my leads. That's not how I was told this was going to work. Like, angry. Um, would you be angry if I said there's leads 90 minutes away that I need you to clean up? Like, I wouldn't be. I'd leave a little early
No,
one day and go work them.
sounds good to me. Give me the leads. Let's go work them.
Yeah. So they get angry. And then
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to realize is that anger is a fight or flight emotion, and you can't operate in logical mode when you're angry about stuff. But so many times people make decisions at a point where they mentally aren't capable of doing it. Like, have you ever noticed that before with people?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, even myself. I mean, I was mentally drained after my 2022 year moving into last year. And yeah, I know I made some decisions that I, regret. Probably shouldn't have done some things, but I'm glad that things worked out now, kind of got my head back on straight, kind of got, everything we've been doing lately. I mean, I feel like every day I feel like is getting better and better and bigger and better. And
Hmm.
I'm really looking forward to where we go with a lot of what we've been doing. So uh,
Exactly.
so yeah, like I said, I'd just use myself an example, but yeah, I've seen it. I've seen other agents, other managers, even in the business, the same sort of thing where uh, making decisions almost on a whim when they're probably not in the right frame of mind to be making those sort of decisions.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about your opinion on distraction, since the eclipse could be a distraction in somebody's normal Monday operation. But before we get to that point, I think to kind of wrap up the conversation about anger and the eclipse of someone's career that you can kind of see take place in like slow motion car accident style, I think it's also important lesson learned in leadership that it's always important never to bitch downhill or downrange or down hierarchy. Like, you can't complain to your downline. It sucks, but it's a reality. Like, you can complain to your leadership team, or you can complain to your spouse, you can complain to yourself quietly in the bathroom one night, but you can't let shit roll downhill to them. So when you sign on to take someone on, you have to take all of their burden and give none of your burden back to them. Have you ever felt that way before?
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes it's maybe difficult, but well, I mean, I've never really. I don't know. I try my best to keep complaining at a minimum, anyways.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about holding ourselves accountable for things, uh, but yeah, the relationships I tried to build with my agents, I would say, is kind of more of like being a player's manager where we kind of keep things loose, we have a good time, and we build friendships. But at the end of the day, you got to remember, if you're in that sort of role, that you're in a leadership role, and people look up to you. And yeah, honestly, yeah, you can't be going to people that are working with you and complaining about this and that and everything else, and it doesn't make you look good. It doesn't really make you look like a good leader, even when you're doing those sort of things.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my mentors in the business yesterday, and he said part of the responsibility when you choose to be in leadership is to keep morale high, no matter what else is happening in the background, as bad as it is or it isn't. It's still your responsibility to keep morale up in those moments. Like, I remember we did a video last week or Friday or Monday about COVID, and I remember where I was at the time, who was leading the calls at the time. I never heard them once panic. Like, oh, this is it. This over. It's done. That's it. We're out. We're going to solar. This is done. Close it down. Shut it off. I never heard panic. Like, I heard, all right, let's try this week. Let's try bringing a folding chair. Let's try calling them from the car. Let's try calling them from the home. Let's try just enough to pay your bills and push the ball the next week. I never heard anger or pure panic were probably behind the curtain. They were pretty freaking panicked themselves, thinking, "How do I put on a positive face and push this thing a little bit further until this all blows over?"
Well, I think the most successful entrepreneurs are those that are creative and that are always going to be focusing on solutions and not being focused on the problems. And that's a great example with COVID. People could have sat and worried about it and, oh man, what am I going to do with my business? You could sit around and worry all day, but that's not gonna solve anything. Let's figure out ways that it's not going to be an issue. Now this is a obstacle, I guess I would call it. Where we have this obstacle in front of us. So, what are we going to do to overcome it? What are we going to do to make it where it's not an issue? Because if you focus on the issue, well, then it's just going to be a bigger
Yeah.
issue. It's like the more you're thinking about stuff, the negative stuff. It's like, well, I'm a real big believer in like the laws of attraction,
Hmm.
where the way we think, the more we think about something, like let's say something bad happened, and the more we think about it, it's like the worse it gets. You got to figure out ways to kind of transition into, again, kind of focusing on the solutions. Uh, if I have a week where I don't write a lot of business and all I focus on is that, how do you think the next week is going to go?
Same way.
I
Worse. It's
mean,
going to be
yeah,
worse. It's going to
yeah,
snowball.
exactly. I got to focus on the solutions. What can I do this week to better the situation so I don't have the same sort of week?
I also feel like, and we'll get to your distraction thoughts to wrap up in just a moment. I think when you focus on solutions and not problems, when you're having a lot of problems in life, sometimes work can be like a safe haven from it. Like I remember some pretty rough moments over the course of 8 or 9 years where I'm like, I just need to get into the damn field, get in front of some folks. Some folks will probably have some insurance I can help them with, and at least get out of the house. And then those 8 hours give me some space to breathe and do what I do well and get outside and see people and help people and make good money. And most of life's problems are far easier to manage when you at least have your money under control. So I want to say, as a word of encouragement to someone who's listening, if they feel like everything is going wrong, just go to work. Like put a set of leads together, drive to the area where those leads are, talk to people about what you're good at because you're probably really good at it, and then come back. Because the problem's either going to be there or going to be smaller or going to be solved, but it isn't going to go away by sitting here and contemplating it, right?
You're right. I mean, heck, even I don't have problems at home, but I mean, it's a madhouse. 4 kids, 3 dogs. I mean, always nonstop. People in and out of the house, and
Hmm.
just it gets to be a lot. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, sometimes I can't wait for Monday and Tuesday to come where I can get out in the field and just kind of, love my kids, love my family, but I can't wait to get away for a day to, yeah, it kind of helps with clearing my head, getting back to focusing on work and, coming home at the end of the day. Always looking forward to seeing them. But yeah, I mean, that's honestly my break. Really, work is like my break, honestly.
There's too much chaos that takes place here to think I'd ever sell over the phone here on a regular basis. People
Yeah.
here, people there, people in, people out, cats, dogs, laundry. It might work for some, but in this reality, it wouldn't work. We got about 8 or 9 minutes left before we got to get on to the next part of our day. You wanted to talk about, as we talk about the eclipse being a distraction in many cases, what are some distractions you've seen that have cost people time and money and growth in business?
Well, just so many different things, Yeah, yeah. Today is a prime example, talking about the eclipse. And like I was telling you, just I can't remember an eclipse ever being publicized so much. And like everybody talking about it and like the unsurety of like what could happen and everything else. And like, I don't know if it's just like scare tactics or if it's like just all these conspiracy people on TikTok or what. Like, it's
Hmm.
just, just so much of it out there. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine saying I'm not going to work today because of the eclipse. Uh, or like coming home early from school, the kids, because of the eclipse. Like my parents would never let me come home early from school for things like that. But yeah, there's so many different people will always, I mean, I've seen so many people come up with excuses why they can't be working instead of focusing on reasons why they need to be working. And I mean, heck, last week it rained all week. So, well, people are not in a good mood when it's raining. I guess I should have just stayed home all week. Uh, because I mean, who's going to want to talk to me when when it's crappy out? Uh, or it's too nice out today. I mean, it's real sunny out. People are probably out running errands, because it's a good day to go out and run errands. They're probably not going to be home either. I guess I probably shouldn't work today because I'm probably not going to catch many people at home. Just there's so many things like that, where people will come up with reasons why they can't be working. But yeah, you're right. So many, other distractions. And we just have to remember when we're working a commission based career, that we're going to get out of it as much as what we're willing to put in. And the more time that we take off to do other things, well, if we don't have as successful of a week or of a month, we got to look back and say, well, did I put the time in or was I slacking a little bit? It always, like I said, it just always comes back down to accountability of our own actions.
Yeah, I think there are tons of distractions, and sometimes with distractions you can simply they do need to be done, but they could also be delayed. I think when it comes to time management, we practice and we preach and we teach delay, delegate, disregard. Like, okay, so this thing has to be done. An oil change. Well, is your car starting? Do you need to make money? All right, can you delay that oil change until Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning? You can. Perfect. Go back to work. That's delay. Delegate. You have an administrative issue that needs to be handled. Can you give it to the team and the admin to handle? Can you hire someone to handle it for you? Can you delegate it to your spouse and your kids and engage them in the family business? Or disregard. Like, some things just don't have to be done. They're not important. It's purely a distraction. It doesn't make you money. It doesn't build you up. Just don't do it. So that's how I always try to manage distractions personally: delay, delegate, or disregard.
Yeah. And you just have to, we talked earlier today too, but about putting a schedule together to try to figure all those things out. If you're working a set schedule, let's say you're leaving your home at 8:30 in the morning, and you know that you're going to work your last lead at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Well, that's just kind of how it has to be. You can't take off in the middle of the day to do other stuff. If you do, then you got to make up for that maybe other times. But uh, the weekend, uh, that's when I'm going to take some time to kind of do some other stuff. Like I'm not going to take time. Like yesterday, I had my wife wanted me to put an outlet in. We had a new I don't know, laundry machine and dryer delivered this morning. She wanted me to install a new outlet for that. Like, I'm not going to do that in the middle of the day on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
I mean, that's when I'm out in the field.
that could
I
definitely
worked
relate.
on that yesterday because that was the best day to do it, where I wasn't going to be doing nearly as much with work. Little home tasks, things like that. I got to do that on my time when it's not my work schedule. Like I said, like on the weekends or when I get home at night at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, if it's something that can wait until then. It can't be done in the middle of the week when I know I need to be out working because time is money.
Yeah, the way I look at it too is some distractions are actually things that you should be involved in, like your family. You have your coaching. My son's got little league baseball, and many of his games are on Wednesdays. Like, that's not very convenient, but I've worked hard enough and managed time well enough that I can adjust to attend. Like, I have to manage the snack stand on Wednesday. He's not even playing, but it's signing up for Little League. You got to do these things. And that isn't technically a distraction, but it's a requirement of life and adulthood and parenting and being present in your family's lives. So what do? You adjust. I'm working a little bit later on Tuesday, and I've been willing to flex into Friday if I don't accomplish what I need to on Tuesday and an abridged Wednesday. So I think some distractions you do have to deal with, but you have to be flexible around them as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. Fortunately, I'm coaching my son. I mean, he's little. I mean, he's 4 years old. So, I mean, he's just doing t-ball. But my plan is to coach him like from here on out. And it's kind of like you got to start when they're young to get the spot to be able to coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm coaching, his team. Fortunately, because I'm coaching, I can be the one too that can decide that practice schedule. So the days that we're having practice, well, at his age, they're just practicing once a week. So I schedule those practices for 5 o'clock on Friday night.
There you go.
Friday is my day that I'm usually in the office anyways, and I'm usually done by that time anyway. So it worked out great. It's not even cutting into my regular work schedule, and his games are on Saturdays. So again, I'm to the point now I rarely work on Saturdays. His games are on Saturday mornings. I can always, if I gotta have an appointment, I can always schedule it for Saturday afternoon if I need to. But yeah, it's just a matter of, having that flexibility. If I wasn't coaching and someone else was coaching, I would figure out ways to make the time to still be there. I mean, he's playing soccer too. He's playing soccer and those practices are on Wednesdays. My wife will be taking them every once in a while. She may need my help too. I got 3 other kids involved in other things too. So she might need my help with some of those things. Again, like you said, just kind of have to rearrange our schedules sometimes to make it work for everybody. But that's just part of being a parent.
Yeah.
When we decided we wanted to have kids, I mean, there's sacrifices that we have to make on both sides.
Yeah, we have to be willing to also, like, in the process of building and growing your own business, don't neglect the why behind why you're doing it. Like, yes, you need to work hard enough to be able to do this, especially in the beginning part of your career. But isn't that another reason to work hard in the beginning part of your career so you can do this? It's like all kind of the same circle. We got another thing to get to later today, so we only got a moment or two to go. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Don't keep your eye to the sky today.
Well said. Well said. Do not stare at the sun. You won't be able to see us for our next podcast.
So that's about it.
Well
Yeah,
said.
don't keep your eye to the sky, like Chris said, so that way you'll be able to continue to watch us on a regular basis without, not being able to see the middle of your screen.
That'd be a shame. That'd be an excuse to be out of the business. Maybe, I don't know. There's your excuse. You finally found it when you're blind. All right. Appreciate you being on with me today. Like, comment, subscribe, or follow if you weren't subject to watching us today. You no longer can see us because you looked at the sky. You're just simply listening. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you again next week.
All right. Thanks a lot.